I read 2 books this year.
Just 2?
Actually, I read a lot more than 2 books, but I read 2 books that fundamentally changed my perspective on some stuff that is very important. All right, now hold on before you tune out. I want to talk a little bit about the environment. Yes, I am talking about the world, the environment that we live in. And the reason I think this ties to company culture, Elise, is because really it's just a
People
larger
shouldn't throw paper on the floor.
macrocosm. Well, of course, it's a macrocosm,
I really
right?
wanted to throw the paper on the floor.
So work is a little culture, and the way you act at work, and the way you treat other people, the way you treat the environment, whatever that may be at work, right, shapes the culture.
True.
But if we talk about on a global scale,
Right.
this planet we live on,
Right.
and the way our attitudes, the way that our attitudes shape the way we live here, goes a long way to shaping the bigger, if you will. I know it's not a company culture, but the bigger culture. So
No, I think we've talked about this before on the show, where if you were unhappy at work, and let's say you had a bad day, you're going to take that home. It's going to trickle out. You're going to take it home. You're going to take it out on your neighbor who always leaves the trash can undone, and you never tell them anything, but suddenly you're ranting like a lunatic for
because
no
you're
reason.
miserable.
Because you need to vent. It
So
says come out
that,
somehow.
that is a bad work environment that is following you home.
Right?
I want to talk about a jacked up sort of worldview and perspective about this place where we live and how that carries into the workplace. So,
Do you think that companies should be held responsible for their footprint?
absolutely. No questions asked. But so what sparked this, and the reason I thought it was a pertinent topic is the CEO of H&M wrote an article or a big, treatise or whatever and said, we need to stop consumer shaming. And he's basically talking about the idea that, we need to buy less stuff. We should have less stuff. I mean, you and I, based on, and I'll mention the books in a minute, but based on, kind of some of my conviction about reading about what's going on here, I just took hold 5 huge boxes of books, down to half price books, turned them in, didn't replace them like I would normally do by just buying a bunch. I think I bought like 2. But the whole point being, I went through all my books and said, am I ever going to read this? If the answer was no, then it's out. If I had a choice between this and these 12 other books that are in queue, because I've always got a huge stack of books in queue, probably not going to get around to it anytime soon. So why is it sitting on our shelf?
My favorite question for that one is, if it was on a shelf and I was looking at it today, would I buy it again?
Exactly.
It's my favorite thing for clothes because I love that pair of shoes. They're so cute. I loved them the day they got them. I loved them the day they put them on the shelf. But then all of a sudden, they're so painful. They just sit there. Now, knowing how painful they are now, would I buy them again? No way. No way.
So the reality is we have a lot
of junk.
Of stuff. STUFF. We've got a lot of stuff.
I call it
junk. I don't mean just us. I was thinking about this.
Garages and garages full of stuff.
Right. So they've done that book where you put everything out, on the sidewalk or whatnot. And so you've got a family that lives in a village in Africa and lives in a little hut and thing, and they put it out, and it's, 12 things or 15 or 20 things.
Right.
You take your typical suburban household.
Right.
We've got storage for storage, right? We've got big stack. We got attics and we got places to put the extra stuff. But seriously, if I sit in our place sometimes, I look around and I go, geez, we've got a lot of stuff. So here's the problem. By the way, can I talk about the 2 books real quickly?
Yes.
So the 2 books, the first one started with a book called Ishmael. And I was going through a book cleaning.
Who was the writer?
I can't remember, but it was written a number of years ago. We'll look it up. We'll post it. So Ishmael, and I was getting ready to turn this book in because I thought, I don't know, I'm never going to read this. And then I read a quote on the front of the book from someone from Whole Earth Catalog. And it wasn't the Whole Earth Catalog so much as it was the quote. This person said, from now on, I'm going to put books in 2 categories. Ishmael and every other book. And I thought, okay, if somebody liked that book that much, then it's got to be. So, and then I recommended it to you. You read about 4 pages in and you hated it.
No, I didn't hate it. It was just dragging.
You were getting ready to put it away.
I was like, okay.
And I said, what? Stick with it. You stuck with it.
Yeah, and then I can't tell you.
And now it's become a punchline kind of in our family. We talk about don't make the gorilla mad, right? Sad.
Don't make him
or
sad.
Mad. You sure don't want to make the gorilla mad.
I don't think he got mad.
At any rate, it's a fictional account where he's talking to, there's a gorilla and he can speak and he's talking to someone about, and it's actually the single best treatise on why we should be taking care of this place, okay, and why we don't own it, right? It doesn't belong to us.
But we're gonna spoil the book.
Okay, so
but I have to say, when I think about taking care of the planet, I think about the things that are really hard. You were talking about consumer shaming. It's so hard to give up things you had your whole childhood, like bottled water. I'm so used to knowing it's time to drink when I find my bottle of water.
And yet, bottled water is one of the biggest culprits on the planet, right? So we've gotten used to stuff, and we've gotten addicted to stuff, and there's an endorphin release. I was thinking about this. We were early. Restaurant wasn't open yet. We're walking around a store, and my thought was, oh, that's cool. Oh, that's neat. Oh, that's great. And then I was going through in my brain thinking, we're purging. We're trying to get rid of half of everything we own, maybe more.
And we each have like our type of store that we go in there and we want to buy everything in it.
It's your kryptonite,
for some people,
right?
It's shoe store. For some people, it's a stationery store like me.
I think for both of us, it's definitely a bookstore. But at any rate, so Ishmael, big deal. I told somebody, a friend of a friend of mine, that I had read Ishmael, really loved it. It impacted me, and she said, well, you ought to read the Overstory. Now, the Overstory is almost 450, 500 pages. I haven't read a book that big in forever, okay, because I do those on Audible. But I, for some reason, decided to read it, and it got me sucked in. It was a great book.
I love
Again, a fictional account, right? But it's talking about trees, just trees.
Wow.
That's the whole theme, and it's got all these little vignettes and things and
all
people.
those myths that it helped you, like all the myths about trees in the forest that we thought our whole life that's the way it should be.
Well, the nonsense about that we're actually doing the trees and the earth a favor when we cut down and clear out all that crap, with the
I remember when we were driving,
and the dead leaves.
That's
a whole ecosystem. Are you freaking kidding me? That's where medicine. That's where this whole thing happens, right? That
mushrooms,
we should be exploring. There's gold and then there are hills. So this is not just, please hear me on this. This is not, first of all, a political thing. I'm so sick and tired of politicizing things that aren't political. This is about where we live.
Is the environment a political thing?
Yeah, trust me, baby. It is definitely political in terms of people. Just even having this conversation right now, people are making assumptions.
Makes me exhausted.
On which they might be dead wrong about, because that's not the point. So this is not a political conversation that we're having. It's a reality of the world we live in. And it dawns on me that it's not an issue of us taking care of the planet. Planet's going to be just fine. It's about us surviving, right?
Yep.
So because the planet, we talk about things like global warming. I don't know, but if global warming is a real thing or isn't a real thing, regardless, if the planet just out of history heats up a lot and we all die, well, we're gone. The planet's going to recalibrate and come back around.
Yep.
So this book was really profound just because it made me think about trees in a whole different light. It made me think about our forest and how much has been destroyed.
Makes me think about all those Amazon boxes that pile up, right? I love that Amazon initiated this new thing where you can have an Amazon day, so they can put all your stuff into one box.
Okay, which should be the trend.
So you say, every Thursday I want all my packages to arrive. So
okay, why are we not doing that? Because we hardly order
anything, but
we do it bulk now.
It's so hard to give up the next day delivery. I need it now.
Think about the amount of recycling that we take down, and it's largely boxes. And what really hacks me off is when you get something and it's this big, and it's in a box this big.
Oh yeah,
I mean, and I was actually reading an article today about in New York, places like that, that boxes are crushing the city. That they're getting so many deliveries, and places like New York, places like our
think
condo.
About Christmas time. That's the worst. They're everywhere.
Environment. They're not used to.
Think about all the gasoline on the trucks that are delivering. True, it's providing employment, but then. Why couldn't you could do it more efficiently? You could pay them the same amount. I don't know.
Okay, so the point is, if we are a consume and discard, consume and stockpile, consume and hoard, right? Collect. I mean, just that we have stuff, and we're consuming all these resources to make that happen. A couple of things. One is we're missing out on experience because we're spending a lot of money on stuff. Instead
that
of
sits in your house.
Experiences.
When was
like
the last time
traveling.
you looked at that random bag that you bought somewhere? It's just sitting in the back of your closet. One day you pull it out. You know what? I find more treasure in our house when we clear out, because when we clear stuff out, I say, oh my gosh, there's my teddy bear. Why is it in there? It should be out here.
Well, it's not just that. For me, it's very therapeutic, and it is.
It's cleansing.
When I look at that shelf and it's cluttered with stuff, my mind is cluttered. All right.
True.
So we think about, and let me segue this a little bit, but work environments are not any different. Because if we are this consume society, we're pulling that into workplace culture.
True.
And we create these things where it's really not about the meaning at work. It's really not about the relationships. It's really not about our customers. It's about, let's produce 50 things that they buy instead of one really great thing that they buy. And I was thinking about this in context of H&M, Forever 21, which, by the way, is closing down a whole bunch of stores, right?
Is H&M an American company?
No, no, they're not. But I can't remember where they're out of. But H&M, the fashion, H&M is very similar to Forever 21.
I know what it is. I thought it was a British company, but I could be wrong.
Would you call it affordable fashion, though? I mean, you can go and buy a whole bunch of outfits. And
I think, yes, for its generation. So it's targeted to age like my sister, like about 10 years younger than me.
Sure. And of course,
at my age, see, when you're in your 20s, you like to have a lot of different options. And it's Swedish. So that makes sense. You have to have a lot of different options, but as you get older, like we were talking about purging, I would prefer to have one very expensive suit than 6 suits.
Okay, and that was going to be my point.
I want one really beautiful, long-lasting, well-stitched. I have such a care for quality versus quantity.
Okay, but we are all about quantity. I mean, as a society.
As a society.
We're about walking out with the whole bunch of bags, and I can wear this on that and this on this, that, instead of, and one of the other things we were
realizing
talking about.
That you don't need all of that. It's just like we realized we never need to check a bag. There's nothing, even if it's 2 weeks, I don't need more than a carry.
Pack light. Okay.
You don't need that, because really, every time I check a bag, I overpack, and then half of that I don't use. Why am I carrying
You bring it back.
Yeah.
All right. So, and we actually have a buddy, Earl Bridges. A little shout out to Earl Bridges and to his show, The Good Road, which is going to hit the networks or is going to hit public
PBS,
television coming up. I think it's in April. So, but Earl always travels with a backpack. That's it. If he's going for a 3-week trip to Africa on a shoot.
You should see how he rolls his shirts. Now, I'm not saying everyone has to like purge their life and live with less, but I'm saying you have to think about your footprint, where this stuff is going to go when you're done with it.
Okay, so when we talk about...
do you need... our dogs is a great example. We loved BarkBox. BarkBox is such a cool thing. Their toys are so good quality, but the box comes too often. And then every month, they've got 5 toys that are new, and now we've got too many toys.
We were drowning in puppy toys.
Like, they don't need that many toys. If I was a kid, I wouldn't need that many toys.
It's that value, though, to, I get the business model, and
subscription model.
It's a
great.
Phenomenal.
I love
but if it came every 6 months, it'd be great. Or if it came with 2 toys, it might also be great. But then you can't justify the price at any rate. So I got one more data point. Buddy of mine sent me, and we'll post this. Can we post like a video as well on the podcast, or as in the sub caption of the podcast, or put a link to it or something?
I can put a link to it.
Okay, so he sent me this video. I watched. This guy's like a He's like a world-respected physicist. And he was talking about electric versus gas when we're talking about combustible engines versus electric. He was not making an environmental case. He was not making a global warming case. He was not making a save the planet kind of argument. So he was purely talking about economics, okay? His argument was this. First of all, his conclusion is that fossil fuels are going away. He says the refineries are going to be stranded.
I mean, they're fossil fuels. You know how long you have to wait for them to become fossils? What did I do?
It just cracks me up.
And yes, when you think about
they do call it fossil fuel. So he was saying this, that refineries are going away, pipelines are going to be stranded, refineries are going to be stranded. And by the way, this is part of just the lunacy of the environment and the way we think about those things. So out of, protection for the environment, we have not built any new refineries. I know this because I used to work for an oil and gas company as a consultant for many years, and would go out to the refineries. We haven't built a new refinery in this country in 65 years. What does that mean? That means refineries, as we know them, are buckets of bolts, okay? They're rust buckets, and they can add equipment on and do some things, but we haven't been able to build a really closed loop, much more efficient system like happened with the chemical companies. The chemical companies got so dangerous at some point that they had to really redo their whole model, right? They're doing a better job of it.
Scary.
But at any rate, so he says they're going away. And his point is this. A combustible engine has 2,000 moving parts and is 17% efficient. Okay. Now think about that. You're getting 17% out of that churn. I had no idea. Wow. Right? An electric car has 20 parts and is 95% efficient.
Why do we have combustible engines still?
This is what I'm saying, and this is why we sold my car and we're selling your car, not just for this, but because we don't need it down here.
Yeah.
Why have a car sit in the garage 6 months out of the, 6 weeks out of the
if you add up all the Ubers we would need to take to go all the places we need to go,
by the time we buy
office,
insurance
studio,
and all that,
it's not going to add up to how much we pay for car insurance.
So we're fortunate to live in a time when we can do that. But his argument is that's going away. Combustible engines are gone. Okay, go look in your garage. You see that car parked out there? What are you going to do with it when electric becomes like the new norm? And we're already starting to see this shift.
I mean, some people are talking about outfitting them, but it would cost so much more.
Depending on the age of the car, depending on the...
Some of the newer ones already have computers, so it might be possible, but I don't think that... It's not going to be economical.
Even some of the really old cars that you want to retrofit because it's a cool old, Chevy, whatever. I don't know. But that's another interesting trend. Here's the real issue, though, that we've got to think about. Work culture sucks. Okay? For the most part. I mean, I can make a good case for that. Only 16% of executives say their culture is where it needs to be.
Did you just want to say the word sucks?
Yes, I just want to say that word. But can we say that it's a direct reflection of world culture being broken, that we have come in, we've gobbled everything up, okay?
Well, that's...
What do we call termites?
Pests.
Pests.
Wait.
Right? Why do we call termites pests?
Well, because they eat your house.
They come in and take what's there and eat it all up.
And they're scary. But here's the other thing. Look, in the Matrix, they called the machines called humans a virus.
A virus,
right?
A pest.
You go in, the virus, it consumes everything that it can consume in that little piece of land, and when it runs out of resources, it doesn't plant a tree to grow some fruit or something. It just spreads to another area, kills everything over there, and then spreads to another area.
So picture this in nature, right? If a swarm of locusts, like happens several times down through history, it can occur, and a swarm of locusts swoop in. I mean, I'm talking a big, like you think it's a thunderstorm coming, and they come in to a forest, right? This age-old forest, and they chew everything up. Right? They kill all the trees. They eat all the leaves off of it, and it's totally bare. What would we call that? A disaster. We would say, oh my goodness, it's a plague. It's an apocalypse. Look at the locusts. Look what they did. Yep. But somehow when we come in with chainsaws and what was going on like in the 80s and 70s, 80s, destroying thousands and thousands of year old trees. I mean, I'm talking trees as big as this room, just chopping them down.
Honestly, if anybody wants a good movie to teach your children how to love the environment, it's going to be Fern Gully.
I never saw Fern Gully.
Fern Gully's really good.
At any rate.
The bad guy is like a toxic smoke villain that's slimy.
Yeah.
And then the good guy is obviously the girl fairy. And she teaches the human boy about why the trees are important.
I've got a great idea. Let's get dinner ready tonight and we'll watch Fern Gully.
You want to watch Fern Gully?
No, I was joking.
Why not?
No.
I can sing you all the songs.
Not watching Fern Gully. So
I like cartoons. They have a lot to teach us.
Here's the point, though. We have so much to learn about company culture, but maybe it starts with just the way we think about the bigger culture of where we live, our environment, because both are environments.
Well, yeah. I've seen it a lot where companies are now becoming really conscious. You had a company where a girl brought the plan to, hey, instead of all these styrofoam cups, let's get mugs and wash them.
Turn it green, right?
Yeah, turn it green. I mean, I've seen a company that for their company like team building exercise, they got trash bags, and I know it's not very fun, but they got trash bags. They took some, wine and beer, and they went down to the river. The dirty river, and they helped clean up the trash from the river.
Sure.
So we were drinking and we're cleaning. Which is always irritating to me.
Who are these people that are throwing, just trash out? I know it was popular in the 70s, just throw your crap out the window, but come on.
I think mostly it's a broken window theory problem.
Yeah.
So when people see that the river's dirty, they just say, well, one more bottle.
It's not going to make a difference. Right?
When you look at places like Singapore where when you walk down a street and it's pristine, you would never think about being the only one. That's
a total broken window theory. Yeah.
When you think of
I actually read about that in
Singapore,
Whiteboard.
Where I remember when I was a kid, my mom would have made me eat it if she found out. But when I was a kid in Saudi Arabia, there's all these construction sites and there's trash, So we would throw our little bubblegum wad into the trash.
Right.
So we went on vacation to Singapore when we were little. And my mom said to me, if you throw anything on the floor, you're going to go to prison.
And I get caned.
And I didn't believe her. But I can still remember this. I was standing on the sidewalk, holding my little bubblegum wrapped up in the wrapper. There wasn't a trash can nearby. And I'm looking for another piece of trash to put it next to. Like, somebody must have thrown something on the floor and there's no place for me to put it, and I'm just like carrying it around all day long.
Do you know why? And some of it's regulation, but their mindset, they've got their mindset right about how to take care of a place.
Right.
So we need to think about that. Let's tie this back to work, because I think it's really important. Mm-hmm. Go check your company out. First stop, go to the break room. Are you using styrofoam cups, for example? Are you using heavy usage of, plastic? Do you have water fountains installed within your company where you can take your container that you bring every day with you and put it in there and fill it up?
Even better, you can get them containers with the logo from your company
on
them.
And
everybody
give
gets
one to everybody, and this is the only, hey,
here's
you
your
want
water bottle,
right?
This is the cooler. I mean, I'm sure this is everywhere. Keurig. Those things spit out all this plastic all day long. And I'm sorry, and I think that the coffee that comes out of a Keurig is disgusting.
Okay, you don't have to name it by brand on our podcast, but you can say the pod coffee.
Is that what it's called? I just
know.
So,
okay, here's another one. Picture this. This has got to be a pet peeve with me with hotel rooms. So I make coffee in the morning, right? Mm-hmm. And maybe it's a really fabulous tasting Keurig. It could be, or it's coffee, right, which you put in the filter. And then you know what I want to put in my cup of coffee? One creamer.
Oh, I thought you were going to say a frog.
I want to put one
sugar
creamer. So what I have to do, not have to do, but what I do, admittedly, is I rip open that plastic thing, and there's a plastic straw in there. There's a couple of napkins. There's 2 sugars. Mm-hmm. There's 2 creamers, which I will use both because I'll have a second cup of coffee. But all that other stuff just goes to waste because they've packaged it in a way where it's Once you open it, everything else is gone.
I don't blame them. They're trying to make it efficient because they do need to leave you all that stuff anyways.
Right.
So they don't know what the guest is going to need.
Come on, but we're not working hard enough. We're not working hard enough.
We're not working
to
smart
think
enough.
about reducing our footprint.
People are working hard. They're just not working smart.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't talking about work, but yeah, you're right. We're not working smart enough.
We're not.
And I think when we start taking better care of the world in which we live, and we start being more conscious of just, we can't come in and destroy all the resources.
I think if hotels had
I think work will change.
I think if hotels had a quality control department. Now think about this. They have so much data on you already, right? They know everything about you. What kind of pillows you want, what hotels you like to stay in, where they know so much about us, we don't even know what they know. But imagine if you could just have your own online profile.
Yeah.
With Hilton, Marriott, wherever. Now, if we won't know, they won't know for everyone that stays with them, but the ones that they do know about, if you add up all those plastic straws that went in the trash that they don't even have to put in your room because you never use them, they would be saving a bundle. They would be saving so much money. It would be worth the cost of the staff that they employ.
You know, unfortunately, the reality is that they probably wouldn't, because those packs they buy so cheap from some other place, and
But they're not thinking about the environment.
All right, so I'm sorry, I went on my little rant, but it's become a passion of mine. I do think it's about leaving the world better than we found it, and I do think it directly applies to why work is so broken, because we're not thinking about resources. We're not thinking about, we
need to think people first, not money first.
People first, absolutely. We need to think places first. We need to think how we coexist within this world and within this planet, and not how we just suck up all the resources out of it, okay? And I'm a big believer in technology, advancement, consumerism. But when I saw that article from H&M, I thought, hey, look, H&M, instead of CEO writing this thing saying, stop consumer shaming, let people just walk out of the store with 17 bags of stuff they're never going to wear, why don't you say, hey, here's what H&M is doing to lead the charge on that. And here's how we are solving that is a problem, where people can consume less and yet feel better about what they're wearing or what they're consuming. Because really, look, you go in your closet, you've got like 8 outfits that you wear over and over again, and then just a whole bunch of other stuff that you haven't even touched in 3 years.
You're afraid to get rid of because you feel attached to it. You spent money on it, so it's money in your closet, right? Well, it is money. Why did you sell it? There's eBay. They've even got apps now where you can scan the barcode on your shirt and just bling, and
somebody will magically appear in your house in that moment and buy it, give you cash for it.
Yes, his name is Peter Pan.
Peter Pan. Okay, so at any rate, I know it sounds like a veer off from when we're talking about company culture. I really don't think it is. Hey, I'd love to see your email on this topic. And again, this is not a political commentary. This has nothing to do with any of that. It just simply has to do with the way we treat environments and how that spills over into the way that we treat work. So
we need to be thinking, if a company wants to survive into the future, the company needs to invest in the future. Does that make sense?
Yes. The future.
If I'm a lumber company, I can't just say I'm going to cut down all these trees because I need that lumber, and I don't care. I don't care about you or those trees. I want the money, right?
Right.
So they keep cut, and then what happens? I run out of trees. Now I have to start a whole new business. Why?
Well, now people are starting to innovate, and we're figuring out that we can build, for example, bags out of seaweed. I just saw this really cool thing will dissolve in water, right? Way better than plastic.
Crazy.
If we put our minds to it, we really can.
And everyone can
do a
do
much
their
better
part.
job. And then I think we're going to feel a lot better about.
I mean, I stopped asking for plastic bags at the grocery store. I bring my own little. Yeah. Which works out a lot better.
So many different ways that you can make an impact, but it's not just that, because again, the world's going to be fine. It's really about mindset, and how that mindset, the way you do something, is the way you do everything, right? The way you do anything is the way you do everything. And when you're disregarding over here, then guess what? That's going to follow you to work. It's going to follow you to home. It's going to become a part of the essence of what you do. So at any rate, that's my story. I'm sticking with it. I'd love, I posted something recently after reading the Overstory on Facebook and said something about, do you think we're using as people more resources than are being replenished or whatever? And it was so polarized. I talked about the trees and somebody said, oh no, we're planting a lot more trees. I'm like, no, we're not. Are you kidding me? This is verifiable since humans appeared on the planet. You've seen that things where if it was like a year, we showed up in the last 15 seconds. If the whole evolution of the world was start to now, a year, I think it's it's less than 15 seconds. I think we showed up in the last 4 seconds, and we've already consumed 40% of the forest or 30. I mean, it's a big number that is not replenishable. We need to just
have laws for that. And I remember in Abu Dhabi and Dubai in the Emirates, I think it was Sheikh Khalifa who. He said that every palm tree that you cut down, you have to put 2 more in the ground. Now look what's happened over a time period. Over a time period, if you go back, let's say 10 years ago, the climate's actually changing. There's more trees than the ones they took out.
Okay,
and the climate's changing, so it's getting cooler in the winter. But a
baby tree and a 500-year-old tree in a dense covered thing are not the same thing. And we're doing that now, by the way. They're cutting down a whole forest, and they're replacing every tree they cut down. They plant 5 little seedlings. That does not a forest make.
Well, so we should block off some area of the forest that should never be touched. But then,
which we've finally gotten around to.
But do we really need wood?
Yes.
What for? Houses?
Well, may not be wood. This looks like wood.
It is.
I like using natural things. I think that's much better than the synthetic things. I think we should charge
more for a resource that actually was alive.
I don't think we overcharge.
We don't kill puppies and turn them into furniture.
I don't think we overregulate. I don't think regulating the heck out of it is the solution. I think it's just about changing our mindset about the way we think about this world.
Yeah, just stop using
and taking better care of it.
Stuff that needs to, I don't know.
By the way, one last word.
What?
When you build a subdivision, what's the first thing you do? Clear all the trees out. Now, if I'm moving into a new house in a new subdivision, what do I want? Trees. So it's even just that, the way we think about construction. Can we not sell lots based on, hey, we're going to build your house here. Yes, it'll be a little tougher to do because we got to bring the cranes and the stuff or whatever in. But you're going to have this 100-year-old oak tree in your front yard. Yeah. Who wouldn't prefer that? That's why people prefer older neighborhoods to brand new ones, because there's a way we can do this. We live in a technological age. Let's figure out how to fix it.
The government could provide tax cuts for people who, let's say, when I'm building my house and there's a tree right in the middle of my land where I want to put my house, right? So we change the design and we find a way for the tree to come through the living room.
People are starting to do that, build around the environment.
The payoff is, it's going to be expensive for me, but the government is going to give me a tax break, right? For caring about a tree.
Yes.
Why not?
Yeah.
More people would do it. It's like in California where if you own a Tesla, you get great stuff. You get and in other places, there's nothing.
We can do work better. We can do the environment better. Let's leave the world better than we found it. Come join us at the Global Company Culture Association. We are really working to change the face of work, evolutionize the way we think about work so that people dance in on a Monday instead of crawling in, and are maybe even a little sad to leave on Friday or Thursday or whenever that is. We'd love to have you come be a part of it. You can check us out, globalcompanycultureassociation.com. And that is a wrap. I promise this is not going to be a consistent theme, and we're not going to be harping on this issue all the time. But I think it's a really important issue, and I do think it applies directly to everything else we talk about on the show, because the way you think about anything is the way you think about everything. So hopefully it's given you a little pause for thought, and we'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Just email us. We're accessible. We're available. Or you can email me directly, Darren at darrenmartin.com. All right, peace out. That's a wrap.
Peace out.